So every cycle, there's definitely a part where people don't survive. I don't even think it's a crash. I don't even think it's a bear market. I think it's a silence after the chaos. When nothing's happening, when there's no relief bounces, it obviously grinds you down, and that becomes a bit of a problem. And I feel that's where we are right now. Max pain is, for me, dropping, no relief at all. Now, I don't think the cycle's over, just a disclaimer. I just think with the government shutdown and what the market's given us in terms of the recipe overall, with the S&P doing really well, the NASDAQ, and obviously the AI stocks, when we get a little bit of a drop-off, there's no liquidity to kind of mop up the blood, in a way. By the way, if you like this sort of stuff, leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more. Now, people think cycles is up and cycles is down, right? And yeah, in a way, but a lot of it is realistically emotion. We can talk about the likes of Dogecoin on the screen here. This is pretty much since June in terms of the technicals. Not great, is it? And that's the thing. Right now, we've got to look at the obvious. We have hype, we have euphoria, we have boredom and despair. Right now, I feel like we're in a bit of the boredom situation where it's dominating the entire market right now, and it's making people quit. It's showcasing that social media is a lot more, you could argue, quiet. Obviously, the altcoins are very lifeless, and we'll go through that in a minute. But for me, when Bitcoin has been somewhat sideways but slowly slanting downwards, it really feels like no one's given, much care in the world. But this is where we're at. We have had a situation since, you could argue from June time, where we've been kind of sideways, little pops to the upside, drops to the downside. And now we're back at these pretty horrific lows, really, when people consider it. But I want to paint a picture that's a little bit different to most people, because what I'm going to say is probably going to scare you a little bit. We've only done, and I say we have only done, a 21% correction. Now, if you've been in the market long enough, you will know that 21% for Bitcoin as a drop is usually, on average, is usually not that extreme. We've had a lot worse, just putting that point out there. And yes, you could argue government shutdown and all that kind of stuff, but the reality is here, we have corrected quite a lot. And that probably is a signal to say that we are not that far away from something happening. But the situation around this whole video concept is people are genuinely removing themselves right at levels of support. That's a bit of an issue. But when we obviously talk, why do people not survive? On the screen, I've just plonked the top assets currently that are performing over the last 7 days. I know, we're going to go with it. But this is a part, obviously, where, there is not much dopamine. There is no quick wins. There is no hype. But what people are doing is they're FOMOing into stuff like this to try and make some money, because there is just silence everywhere else. And that's where we have that situation where everyone's checking their portfolios every 5 seconds. It feels smaller than normal. People are starting to doubt what they're holding. And then they're chasing something new. For example, look at what people are doing recently. They're buying into Nvidia at record stupid highs. They're buying into assets like this because all of a sudden Dash has started to run off. Or, as I say, something new is they might actually quit, which is absolutely mental when you think where we are, even in the grand scheme of things, of where the market has been and whatever has happened. At the end of the day, this is a part of the cycle where there is more opportunity, realistically, because we have dropped quite a lot. Doesn't mean we're going to get a giga bounce or a 10x or a 50x, whatever, all season like the past. And I've openly said we're never going to probably get them ever again. But this is where people build positions with conviction because they feel that they are discounted. And when you pick the obvious assets in the room here, your Bitcoins, for example, your Ethereums, for example, right? They are a lot cheaper than what they were a couple of weeks ago. Now, I can bet quite happily that people would have been begging for a $100,000 Bitcoin when it was at 125,000. That's just the reality of it. And the problem is people get sucked into the drama of the horrible red candles. By the way, if you are interested, you can jump in Patreon for free. You can get some free content, and I will be doing a lot more stuff coming up soon in terms of, big content, course content, a lot of big library stuff that should hopefully help people if you are struggling with the silence phase. Because the big element around this is markets don't move in price before they move in people. Let me somewhat explain this one. So what we're seeing on the screen is Bitcoin dominance. What is happening, I think, is the crowd has totally left the altcoin market somewhat. There's very dry elements of liquidity. Bitcoin dominance is still high. And yeah, you could argue the stronger are now accumulating better, stronger assets to kind of offset the fact that their disruptive lower cap assets are probably not going to win anymore. And then once that accumulation's happening, and obviously we've seen with Ethereum recently, if the ETF does well, the market does well. Right now, that's not happening. But yes, the market will recharge, it will reset, and then we'll get a bit of a bounce. And then that will bring some of the noise back and people start getting a little bit more excited again. But that's where, as I say, and I've talked about this before, the people who have accumulated at the better opportunity points will look like a bit of a genius. But that's kind of how the market goes. And it's not rocket science. And I talk about this a lot on my Patreon. Buy solid assets as low as you possibly can. That's it. That's the game. But right now, I think the job is for survival. People need to stay patient. They need to stay focused and obviously consistent. That is what defines wealth. Give your money a job. Your job is to automate it and do it as low as you possibly can. Don't buy loads when it's really high because it's justification that things are doing well because it's green. Buy it when no one wants it. And the quiet part is obviously the best. Even though it's hidden in the boredom, you can go on an exchange like Blowfin. There's a link below, by the way, if you want some discounted fees, and it is open to the UK. You start feeling like an investor because all the distractions are gone. All the hype's gone. All the airdrops have gone. All the pre-release bollocks has gone. And you're thinking to yourself, no one's here. Oh, right. I can buy Bitcoin at, say, $100,000, $80,000, whatever. And you feel like I have made a decision that is based on my own personal opinion that I think that is better price now versus when it was all hyped up. Because that's where the noise is. And that's when the hype will get you to FOMO into things. So instead of flapping on the meme coin section or the hot section or the GameFi section or the AI section, what you're actually doing is, as I say, you're thinking like an investor. You're building a position in the solid, the solid assets that you need to buy in terms of cryptocurrency. You are no longer a gambler. It makes it so much easier, and you can build a strong position from a much better price. Now, obviously on the screen, it's showcasing the little bit of a difference between every single major move in the crypto market, realistically. Discovered from basically boredom to, explosion, realistically, right? Now, I have seen pretty much every cycle since 2016. I've been around for a while. And that's the thing, 2016, 2019, 2023, whatever you want to look at, they all looked pretty dead at certain points. Now, the difference between this cycle to the last cycle is you've probably missed the boat. You've probably missed the boat on, obviously, Bitcoin. We have been in a rampant Bitcoin bull market for the last, 2 years, give or take, maybe longer, 2023 at least. Now, that's the situation. The people who survived that silence, they're the ones that became lucky because they have Bitcoin. But it's not just luck, it's discipline. Buying Bitcoin between 15 and 18,000 from a low of 69,000 was quite obvious for me. But it's staying when other people can't. And that's what got people caught off guard. I obviously choked at the opportunity of buying Solana at the lows. I thought it wouldn't have went as low as it did. I shot myself because of the FTX drama. If I bought that, it would have been a fantastic opportunity, which would have put everything I'm talking about into physical practice. I did it with Bitcoin, luckily, and I did it with a couple of other assets such as NIA. But the reality is, what's different? Well, this time, it's just Bitcoin. Altcoins haven't really done what we want to do. Even though here is a perfect roadmap of what the market cycles do, realistically, in terms of the Bitcoin cycle. And we have had mini altcoin seasons, kind of, which has caught people out. But people chase the hype at the wrong time. And I could talk about this because I've mentioned it on my YouTube channel. The thing that has happened quite a lot in this cycle is we've failed to get a massive influx of different liquidity, basically retail or you people. So what's happened? We've had mini altcoin failures, and I've talked about this before. And this is the calm bit where we're starting to see it go up and then back down. Boom, boom, boom. It's going back up again, which is obviously a problem. And obviously, if it goes too high, you consider DCAing back into the market. There's a lot more stables versus active assets. We need to go into these lows. We haven't done that yet for obvious reasons. Now, whether we do or not, I don't know. But that's a situation. You got to look at the market in a certain way to know when to buy when not to buy. And right now, what we're seeing is every single thing go up, which is what you want but don't want, if that makes sense. I.e., stable currency dominance is increasing, right? That equals there's more money on the sidelines. That is probably why quite a lot of the prices are looking pretty awful. The dominances of certain assets are dropping as well, which is obviously changing that share, which is why obviously Bitcoin dominance is rising, even though Bitcoin price is still falling. So yeah, this is a part of the cycle where not many people like it. But that's where you should realistically stay calm, stay focused, and more importantly, try and build a position at the right possible times. Because when it gets really loud and really annoying, and when you go on YouTube and you start puking and throwing yourself off, your stair landing or whatever, essentially you should be winning by that point, hopefully. But yeah, if you're not yet done so, watch this video. This one will give you a bit of an insight of what I think a bit deeper.